The Diderot Effect, why one purchase costs you thousands. I bought a coffee table for $300 and it destroyed my life, not immediately, not obviously. But 6 months later, I was sitting in an apartment I could barely afford, surrounded by furniture I didn't need, drowning in credit card debt, and I couldn't understand how I got there. The coffee table was beautiful, mid-century modern, walnut wood with these elegant, tapered legs. I found it at a vintage shop downtown on a Saturday afternoon, when I wasn't even looking for furniture. My old coffee table worked fine. It was scratched and one leg wobbled, but it held my coffee and my books, and that's all a coffee table needs to do. But this new one called to me. And when I brought it home and placed it in my living room, something shifted. Suddenly, everything else looked wrong. My couch looked cheap next to it. My rug looked faded. The TV stand didn't match. The artwork on my walls seemed juvenile. One purchase created a domino effect that I couldn't stop, and what happened to me has been happening to people for over 250 years. There's a name for it, there's a psychology behind it, and right now, at this very moment, it's probably happening to you too. You just don't see it yet. The year was 1765. Denis Diderot, one of the most prominent French philosophers of the Enlightenment, received a gift. A friend gave him a beautiful scarlet dressing gown, luxurious and elegant, far nicer than anything Diderot owned. He was thrilled. He wore it proudly. But then something strange happened. As he walked through his study wearing this magnificent gown, he started noticing things. His desk looked shabby next to the gown's richness. His chairs seemed worn and unworthy. The tapestries on his walls appeared dull. The bookshelf that had served him perfectly for years suddenly looked like a peasant's furniture. What did Diderot do? He started replacing things. First the desk, then the chairs, then the tapestries, then the bookshelf. One by one, every item in his study was replaced to match the quality and elegance of that single dressing gown. When he was done, he found himself surrounded by beautiful things he couldn't afford, in debt and miserable. He wrote an essay about it called Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown. In it, he described how that one gift had made him a slave to his possessions, how he'd been forced into a cycle of spending that stripped him of his financial peace. Diderot died never quite recovering from that spiral, and his essay became a warning that almost nobody heeded. If you're watching this and thinking about the last thing you bought that made everything else look wrong, hit that like button right now, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every purchase for the rest of your life. And subscribe, because this channel breaks down the psychological traps that companies use to separate you from your money, the traps they hope you'll never understand. The Diderot Effect is invisible until you know its name. Then you see it everywhere. It's why you buy new workout clothes when you get new running shoes. It's why you redecorate your entire living room after buying one new chair. It's why you get a new phone case, new headphones, new charger, and a new laptop sleeve when you buy a new phone. One elevated purchase creates a cascade. Each new item raises the standard for everything around it. Your possessions start to feel incompatible with each other, like they're from different worlds, different versions of you. And the only way to resolve that psychological discomfort is to bring everything up to the same level, to achieve unity, to match. But here's what makes it vicious. The effect doesn't stop at one cycle. When I bought that coffee table, I then bought a new couch to match it. The couch was $2,000. I put it on a credit card. Once the couch arrived, the coffee table and couch together made my old rug look like something from a college dorm. So I bought a new rug. $800. Now the couch, coffee table, and rug formed this beautiful triangle of expensive taste, and they made my TV stand look like trash. The TV stand was particle board from a big box store, something I'd assembled with an Allen wrench 6 years ago. Next to my new furniture, it looked offensive, so I bought a real wood TV stand. $1,200. Are you seeing the pattern? Each purchase justified the next. Each purchase made the next one feel necessary, even urgent. I wasn't being frivolous. I was restoring balance. I was creating harmony. At least that's what it felt like. What I was actually doing was falling into a trap that's been documented for 2.5 centuries. A trap that retailers and marketers now exploit with surgical precision. The fashion industry runs on the Diderot effect. Fast fashion especially. They don't just sell you a shirt, they sell you an outfit. Then they sell you the lifestyle that goes with the outfit. You buy a blazer, and suddenly you need the right pants to go with it. Then the right shoes, then the right bag, then the right accessories. Each piece is designed to feel incomplete without the others. Walk into any clothing store and notice how items are displayed. They're not hung randomly. They're styled into complete looks, outfits that work together, outfits that whisper, "You need all of this to look right." The mannequin near the entrance wears $500 worth of coordinated pieces. And when you buy just the jacket, when you get home and put it on with your old jeans and your scuffed sneakers, it doesn't look like it did on the mannequin. It looks wrong. So you go back. You buy the pants. Maybe the shoes too. The Diderot Effect doesn't feel like manipulation when you're inside it. It feels like taste, like self-improvement, like becoming the person you're meant to be. Tech companies understand this better than anyone. Apple is the master. When you buy an iPhone, it exists in an ecosystem. The phone is beautiful, sleek, minimalist, and suddenly your old headphones with the frayed cord look barbaric next to it. So you buy AirPods. Now you have an iPhone and AirPods, and your old laptop, the one with stickers and scratches, feels like it's from a different universe. So you buy a MacBook. Now you have an iPhone, AirPods, and a MacBook, and you need them to talk to each other seamlessly. So you buy an Apple Watch, then an iPad, then a HomePod. Each device is designed to work better with the others, to create friction if you dare to bring in an outsider brand. The ecosystem isn't just technological, it's psychological, it's aesthetic. Everything matches, everything flows, and the moment you break that unity by using a non-Apple product, you feel it. The Diderot Effect isn't about need, it's about coherence. And companies engineer that feeling of incoherence when you don't buy everything they offer. Here's where it gets darker. The Diderot Effect doesn't just apply to physical objects, it applies to lifestyles. You move into a nicer apartment and suddenly your old car feels embarrassing in the parking garage. Everyone else has newer models, cleaner paint jobs, cars that beep and flash when they lock. So you lease a new car. Now you have a nice apartment and a nice car, and your wardrobe feels inadequate. You're parking a $40,000 car and wearing $30 jeans. The dissonance gnaws at you, so you upgrade your clothes. Now you dress well, drive well, live well, and your old gym membership at the budget chain feels beneath you. So you join an expensive boutique gym. Each upgrade pulls you further from who you were and deeper into debt. But it doesn't feel like debt. It feels like progress. It feels like you're finally becoming successful, finally matching the image you have of your future self. The Diderot Effect weaponizes your aspirations against your bank account. I want you to think about the last time you bought something that felt like an upgrade. Maybe it was a new jacket, a new gadget, a new piece of furniture. In the days after that purchase, did you start noticing other things you owned that suddenly felt lesser? Did you start making mental lists of what to replace next? That's the Diderot Effect activating in real time. And here's the cruel part. The feeling doesn't go away when you make the next purchase. It multiplies. Because now you have two nice things that make everything else look worse. The psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. But it's more than that. It's the paradox of acquisition. The more you have, the more you need. Not because your needs have changed, but because your reference point has shifted. You're no longer comparing your possessions to what you had before. You're comparing them to the nicest thing you currently own. And everything suffers by comparison. Let me tell you what happened after I finished upgrading my living room. I felt good for about 2 weeks. The space looked incredible. Everything matched. It felt like an adult's apartment, like I'd finally made it. Then I walked into my bedroom. My bedroom still had the same old bed frame I'd bought on sale 7 years ago, the same mismatched nightstands, the same cheap lamp, and it hit me like a wave of disgust. How could I sleep in this room when my living room looked like a West Elm catalogue? The contrast was unbearable. So I started shopping for bedroom furniture. I set a budget of $1,000. That lasted exactly one website visit. Because the bed frame I wanted, the one that would actually match the quality of my living room furniture, cost $1,800 alone, not including the nightstands, not including the new mattress I'd suddenly convinced myself I needed, not including the linen duvet cover that would complete the look. I was trapped. Going backward felt impossible. My living room had set a standard I couldn't unmeet. The advertising industry knows about the Diderot Effect, even if they don't call it by name. They know that selling you one premium item is the gateway to selling you 10. That's why luxury brands offer entry-level products. A designer wallet, a branded keychain, a small leather good that costs $200 but lets you into the ecosystem. Once you own one Louis Vuitton piece, your other accessories look cheap next to it. So you buy another, then another. Each purchase raises the floor. Each purchase makes your previous standard feel inadequate. Credit card companies love the Diderot Effect. They've built entire business models around it. They know that someone who buys one expensive item on credit is likely to buy several more within the next 6 months. They know the cycle is self-sustaining. You can't pay off the first purchase before the second one hits. The balance grows, the minimum payments grow, and you keep buying because stopping would mean living with the dissonance, living with a half-upgraded life that feels worse than the fully unupgraded life you had before. There's a term in economics called lifestyle creep. It's what happens when your spending rises to match your income, when every raise results in higher expenses rather than higher savings. The Diderot Effect is the psychological engine behind lifestyle creep. You get a promotion, and suddenly your current apartment feels too small. You move somewhere bigger. The bigger place needs more furniture. More furniture means higher utility bills. Higher rent means you need a car because you can't afford to live downtown anymore. The car needs insurance, gas, maintenance. You're making more money than ever and somehow you have less, because each elevation creates new deficits, new gaps between what you have and what feels necessary to match. And the cruelest part? You can't see it happening. It feels rational every step of the way. It feels like you're just keeping up with the life you've built, maintaining a reasonable standard. You don't realize you're on a treadmill that speeds up every time you try to catch your breath. Now here's what nobody talks about. The Diderot Effect doesn't just drain your wallet, it drains your peace. Because once you enter the cycle, you're never satisfied. There's always something that doesn't match, something that needs upgrading. Your possessions become a source of low-grade anxiety rather than comfort. You can't relax in your beautifully furnished living room because you're thinking about the bedroom. You can't enjoy your new car because you're thinking about the outdated kitchen in your house. Every space, every category of ownership becomes a project. And projects require time, research, money, and mental energy. The things you bought to make your life better become the things that make your life stressful. Diderot wrote about this in his essay. He said that he'd been happier with his old, mismatched study, that his threadbare dressing gown had allowed him to work without worry, to spill ink, to be careless. His new possessions demanded care, demanded maintenance, demanded protection. He'd become a slave to things that were supposed to serve him. I maxed out 2 credit cards upgrading my apartment, $14,000 in total, not including the interest that started accruing immediately. And for what? The apartment didn't function any better. I didn't sleep better in my expensive bed. I didn't think more clearly surrounded by matching furniture. The only thing that changed was my perception and my debt. I remember the moment I realized what I'd done. I was sitting on my $2,000 couch, looking at my credit card statement on my phone, and I felt this crushing weight in my chest. How did I get here? I'd always been careful with money. I'd always lived below my means, but that coffee table had flipped a switch in my brain, had activated something I didn't know was there. I'd spent $14,000 chasing a feeling of completeness that never arrived. Because the Diderot Effect doesn't have an endpoint. There's no final purchase that makes everything perfect. There's always one more thing. Marketers have a phrase for this. They call it the razor and blades model. You sell someone a razor cheaply, then make your profit on the blades they have to keep buying. But the Diderot Effect is more insidious than that. It's not about repeat purchases of the same item. It's about triggering purchases of different items, items the customer didn't even know they wanted until the first purchase changed their perspective. IKEA is brilliant at this. You go in for a lamp and walk out with a cart full of complementary items. Throw pillows that match the lamp's color scheme, a rug that ties the room together, frames that fit the aesthetic. The store is designed to show you complete rooms, complete lives, and to make you feel like your home is incomplete without all the pieces. You're not buying furniture. You're buying the vision of a life where everything matches, where everything flows. And that vision is always just one more purchase away. There's a concept in Buddhism called the hungry ghost. It's a being with a huge belly and a tiny mouth, forever hungry but unable to eat enough to be satisfied. The Diderot Effect turns us into hungry ghosts. We consume and consume, but the satisfaction never comes because each purchase creates new hunger. The goal posts move. The finish line recedes. We're running toward completeness, but completeness is a mirage that disappears the closer we get. And here's what makes it almost impossible to escape. We live in a culture that celebrates this behavior. We call it treating yourself. We call it investing in quality. We call it adulting. Social media is filled with aesthetic photos of perfectly curated spaces, wardrobes, lives. The message is clear. If your life doesn't look like this, if your possessions don't match and coordinate and flow, you're doing it wrong. You're behind. You need to upgrade. The Diderot Effect isn't just personal anymore. It's cultural. It's the water we swim in. So how do you stop it? How do you get off the treadmill once you realize you're on it? The first step is recognizing that the discomfort you feel when one nice thing makes everything else look worse is manufactured. It's not real. Your old couch didn't get uglier when you bought a new coffee table. Your perception changed, but the couch is the same. The function is the same. The only thing that changed is the story you're telling yourself about what you deserve, what you need, what matches. The second step is to question that story. Do you really need a new couch, or do you need to stop comparing your possessions to each other? Do you really need to upgrade, or do you need to redefine what good enough means? Because here's the truth. Good enough is a choice. You can choose to be satisfied with what you have. You can choose to opt out of the cycle, but it requires swimming against the current of every message our culture sends. I didn't escape the Diderot Effect by making one heroic decision. I escaped through a series of small refusals. When I noticed my kitchen felt shabby compared to my living room, I acknowledged the feeling, and then I sat with it. I let the discomfort exist without trying to fix it. And after a few weeks, the discomfort faded. My brain adjusted. The kitchen was fine. It was always fine. I started practicing something I called the old me test. Before buying anything non-essential, I'd ask, would the version of me from 2 years ago have wanted this? Or do I only want it now because I've raised my standards? If the answer was the latter, I didn't buy it. I forced myself to remember that the standards I was trying to meet weren't universal truths. They were arbitrary lines I'd drawn, and I could move them back. I also started avoiding stores and websites that styled complete looks. If I needed a shirt, I bought just the shirt. I didn't browse. I didn't window shop. I didn't expose myself to visions of what my life could look like with just a few more purchases. Here's what I learned. The Diderot Effect is powerful because it hijacks something real, our desire for coherence, for our lives to make sense. We want the pieces to fit together. We want to feel like we're moving in a direction, becoming someone. And purchases feel like progress. They feel like evidence that we're growing, improving, ascending. But that's a lie. You're not the sum of your possessions. Upgrading your furniture doesn't upgrade you. Buying nicer things doesn't make you a nicer person, a smarter person, a more successful person. It just makes you a person with nicer things and, often, more debt. The companies that profit from the Diderot Effect will never tell you this. They need you to believe that the next purchase will finally make you complete, will finally make you enough. And the moment you believe that, you're trapped. Because there will always be a next purchase. Always. I eventually sold most of the furniture I'd bought during my Diderot spiral. Not because it was bad, but because I couldn't afford the life I'd tried to build. I sold the couch, the rug, the TV stand, the bedroom set. I kept the coffee table. Not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. Every time I look at it now, I remember what it cost me. Not $300, $14,000. Plus the months of stress, the damaged credit score, the sick feeling in my stomach every time I checked my bank account. The coffee table taught me that every purchase has a hidden price. Not just the dollar amount on the tag, but the psychological cascade it triggers, the wants it creates, the dissatisfaction it breeds. and I get to choose whether to pay that price or walk away. That $300 table was the most expensive lesson of my life, but it might have been worth it because now I see the trap. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let me ask you this. What was your coffee table? What was the one purchase that started the spiral, that made everything else feel wrong, that pulled you into a cycle you couldn't stop? Maybe it's happening right now. Maybe you just bought something and you're already making a list of what needs to change next. If that's you, stop. Put down your phone. Close the browser tabs. Sit with the discomfort of having one nice thing surrounded by imperfect things. Let your space be mismatched. Let your life be incoherent. Because the alternative is spending your way toward a finish line that doesn't exist, chasing a feeling of completeness that will never arrive. The Diderot Effect is counting on you not to notice. It's counting on you to keep buying, keep upgrading, keep chasing. But now you know. Now you see it. And that changes everything. If this video opened your eyes, if it made you see your own purchasing patterns in a new light, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is what we do here. We expose the systems designed to separate you from your money. And leave a comment, even if you disagree. Tell me your coffee table story. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me anything. Just tell me you're thinking about it. Because that's how we break the cycle, one conscious choice at a time.